Thank you for joining us on another episode of Popcorn for Breakfast. With me, as always, my wonderful, spectacular co-host, Spider-Man! Wow.
Hello.
It's the real Buzz Lightyear. It's the real Spider-Man. I can't believe that you're here.
Well, I thought I'd swing in. I am 30 years old now, hence my voice and not my youthful Tom Holland impression. I just wanted to say hi to all the viewers out there for the special 200.
That's right. It is the 200th episode, so we did have to have a special guest. It appears to be Spider-Man. Kirk, I gotta respect it, man. Always with the props, always keeping me on my toes. I never know what to expect. Whenever I hit the countdown, your face disappears into the void, and I get scared. I don't know what's coming at me. And this time it was Spider-Man. I'm thankful for that. It could have been much worse. So thank you for sparing me of that. But
That's
welcome.
Right. And that is strictly for the thumbnail, because there's not a chance in this world I would be able to last the rest of this episode in this beautiful Spider-Man mask. I want to shout out to my son for letting me wear it.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. I'm sure it's restricting some blood flow, but also I would say, we might have to watch out on the thumbnail because you're such a convincing Spider-Man. They're going to be like, whoa. This is copyrighted material. This has got to be the real Spider-Man. We cannot allow this. Yank it down. That's what I'm foreseeing. So,
oh no,
we'll see what happens. You could have just created a huge dilemma for us, Kirk, but
tonight's episode has been erased from history due to my shenanigans. That's about right.
It will be the lost episode once again. We already have one lost episode that will never be seen by human eyes, never be heard by human ears. We were just talking about it. I don't even know what that episode was about. So this is really, Kirk was making a big hullabaloo about episode 200. This is actually episode 201 because there is an episode that is lost in the catacombs of history, never to be unveiled. What we talked about, the world will never know. Was it good?
We can't
probably not.
The title, the movie, the year, the date.
Yeah, oh no. It's gone. None of it. It's all gone. It's gone forever. There was a period of time where I knew, and now that it's gone, because we've done 200 of these guys. So I want to start the episode by saying this. We just crossed our 3-year anniversary, July 3rd. Of 2019 was our first episode, and we didn't make any hullabaloo about it. I think because we've been so busy focusing on what we're actually talking about on the podcast that we didn't even think about the milestone. But we did want to slow down and acknowledge episode 200, and every single one of you who have been a part of it. Even if this is your first time listening, you have made our lives immeasurably more fun because we have such a blast doing this. And the only reason that we do it is because A, we have fun, and B, there are people who listen to it, and we're so happy that you do. It has been an absolute blast. We have changed formats numerous times. We have dealt with a pandemic, switched to video from on location. We've switched equipment. We've switched everything. We've tried everything. We've just been experimenting the whole time, and we've absolutely loved it every step of the way. So thank you guys so much for watching, for listening, subscribing, commenting, liking. We see all you guys on social media whenever we post stuff. We love talking with you on there. It's been a blast. It's like a fun, it's more like a group chat or a friend group than anything else. This podcast has sort of turned into that. There's these people that we have reconnected with, or that we connect with through the podcast that we wouldn't have otherwise. And that has just been an awesome blessing, and we really enjoy it. And I think that our promise to you is that for as long as it is viable, and maybe even a little bit past it being viable, we will continue to do this thing and churn it out and to have fun and try new things. When new social platforms come out, we'll find a way to be a part of it. We'll constantly diversify and change things up, and hopefully continue to make it enjoyable. So, ways you can help us are the same as they've always been. Continue to engage with us. We love it. It just makes it 1,000 times more fun. I mean, we love talking to each other, but we love even more talking to you guys. And, tell your friends, tell your family, hit the subscribe button on any channel that you happen to be watching on. And we're just so appreciative. Kirk, anything I missed or anything you want to add in on episode 200?
I think it was everything. I think it was everything that we needed to chat about. There'll be more. There'll be random moments where I just burst into tears in this episode, and I think that's okay. I think this is a safe place to do so.
I agree.
I also want to say, yeah, we've changed so much. I mean, if you look at Cam, if you're watching on the stream, look how tan he is for this episode. We've
Right?
literally changed the pigmentation of our skin because we wanted to show off, these wonderful lights and these wonderful. We got to be good to look at, right? I mean, if you don't want to watch us, then we're not going to be on camera. There
That's
are
right.
so many laughs, so many random things we did, like live stream a couple of movies. Like we watched them, and it was basically like a reaction video. So you watched us watching movies that you could not see, that you had to time up to. It was quite interesting. We did like 5 of those. So
Yes.
that was very fun. It was actually quite fun. And of all of that, I have been both exhilarated with every episode. I've been stressed sometimes,
Yeah, oh
but for the
yeah.
most part, this is an outlet to let my wife give her a break from the absolute insane things that I say. I will hold back and wait to say crazy things on here, or wear a Spider-Man mask that I've tossed into the abyss, or randomly appear with an Iron Man glove. Like, there's so many things that are great. And all of that said, talking especially about stress, Cam, I have something to admit to you.
Oh no.
The other day, the other night, I awoke from a dream that startled me to my core.
Ooh.
One would argue that it was a nightmare,
Ooh.
if you will. And in this nightmare, it was very abstract to start with, and then it became very there was a lot of intent. So let me tell you. So there's like all
Mhm.
basically I felt like I was falling a little bit, not like far, but like just like kind of just like drifting into a hole, and I landed in my bed, and I got up and I had this sense of urgency, and I
Ooh.
got out of my bed, and
Wait. Sorry, I'm lost. Are we still in the dream?
we're still in the dream. Yeah,
Okay, so you woke up in your dream and you
that is
got up out
correct.
of your. Okay, I'm good.
That is
We're
correct.
good.
Still in the dream, woke up in my bed in my dream, right? So I'm tricked. And I run out of my room, and I turn, and it's not my house. It's a house I've never been to
Of
before. And
course.
I turn the corner, and you're sitting there, you,
Ooh.
Cam, are sitting there in a chair or a couch. That part I don't quite remember, but I look at you and I stand you up
Mm.
and I slap you across the
What?
face.
Like Nick
And
Cage with
then
that old lady in that movie.
that's right. And then that's when I actually wake up, okay? And because I didn't trust my reality, I thought that I was awake that entire time. And
Right.
I'm like laying in my bed, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to destroy the podcast.
Oh,
I, I just thought that
that's what you interpret from that?
yes, I thought, well,
Oh,
because I thought I slapped you. I'm like, Cam's never
right.
going to want to record with me again. Like, who just randomly slaps someone like that? I had no any reason to be angry with you whatsoever. And yet I stood you up, the 6 foot, 3 foot frame that you are,
Yeah,
and slapped you across the face as I
right.
summoned Will Smith's power. And I was stressed for the rest of the day. And then at the end of the night, it finally clicked. Like I knew, like, like you have a feeling that you just can't let go. Um,
Yeah.
and so I realized halfway through, well, not halfway through the day, about 15 minutes after I realized it was not real. But then I was like, why did I dream that? Am I angry with Cameron? Is there some kind of subconscious? And what I've chalked it up to is that I think I was just nervous about the 200th episode. I didn't know what would come of
Oh,
it.
sure.
And I told Aubrey about it at the end of the night. I was like, "Hey, I got to tell you about my dream. I slapped your brother clear across his face." And she started giggling. She's like, "Yeah, that would never happen."
I mean,
So
it could happen. First of all, let's be honest. I would not quit this podcast if you randomly slapped me across the face. I would just assume, just because you're a man of character, I would be like, I deserved that. I don't know what I did, but I did something. That honestly is what would pop in my head. I'd be like, Kirk would never do this. And so for that reason, I am ashamed of whatever I have done. I just would have immediately placed the blame on myself. So you're good there. Secondly, I feel like we need to get some dream analysis on this. This could mean lots of things. This could be a good omen. This could be a bad omen. This could be like you slapping me like, wake up, bozo. It's time to like go grab our dreams or something, like this is a
Ooh, I
wake up call
like
for both of
that.
us,
I like
who
that.
knows? There's so many paths. That's the thing is like, it's so vague
Yeah.
that there are any number of ways that it could be interpreted and what it could mean.
Yeah. I mean, to this day, it was only like 3 nights ago, but to this day, I'm like, "What in the world was I
You're
watching
shook.
before bed, and have you recovered? Like, has Dream Cam recovered from the slap?"
Were you watching that show with Zachary Quinto called The Slap, where he slaps that little girl, right? Isn't it a little girl? And that's the premise for a whole show.
It is the whole premise for a whole show that got canceled immediately, and it was a remake. I think it was a British show or a New
No.
Zealand show first, and they decided, "Let's try this. Zachary Quinto is off of Heroes. Let's take him. Let's do
Yeah,
this."
The Slap.
The slap.
Yes. That's what your dream will forever be referred to. Maybe that is that is the harbinger of what is to come for us. That's the raven, it's the vision,
Yeah.
the oracle of what is to come, and we won't know what it means truly until many years down the line, like at like the end of Game of Thrones or something.
You know what it is? You know that contest online where they say, "If I paid you, you know, give a number,
Yeah.
$5,000,000, would you slap your brother-in-law?" And I would say, "Yes."
I mean, I would not blame you. Every time I see one of those, I think they're so stupid because if I'm not taking someone's life or their ability to do something, if it's
Right.
just like, would you punch somebody for like it could be $1,000 and I would do it. Like the threshold is pretty low. Or like, would you let somebody punch you in the face for whatever amount? I'm always like, yes. It could be $50. I would let somebody punch me in the
For a
face.
Taco Bell Crunch Wrap
I
at
mean, seriously, like
breakfast.
the bar is pretty low. So every time I see those, like there was this TikTok trend for a long time that was like, would you um body slam your sibling for like $1 billion or something like that? And I'm like, 5,000% I would do that, and none of my siblings would blame me, and I would gladly volunteer myself to be body slammed if it meant
Yeah.
somebody was getting a payout. Like there's
Yeah.
just no I feel like that's a no-brainer.
Oh my goodness. So I'm hoping it's something that rewards us with money
Maybe you'll
for
get paid.
violence.
Maybe you will get paid. Maybe there's somebody watching out there and it's like Squid Game and there's a cash reward for that. Or like Truth or Dare, you know.
Yeah, they're like, if someone out there has a dream one night that they randomly slap a member of their family, and then they talk about it on a podcast the next day, $10,000,000 will go
Yeah.
to them. So
Oh,
let's
that'd be
put this
great.
out there so we can get our money and just do this full time. That's what I'm going for here.
The other thing I want to key in on from your remarks prior to the dream is that you said this kind of saves your wife from having to listen to your insanity, and it harnesses your chaotic energy.
Yeah.
That really hit home for me because I had never thought of it that way, but I literally just came down here after giving my wife the synopsis of all of the first 4 Scream movies in a row. Like I told her the premise of each one, the antagonist of each one, their motive, which characters were involved of each of the first 4 Scream movies, basically for no reason other than I've been watching them. And I'm up to the new Scream that came out this year. And the whole time I could tell that she was just like, please God, end this. Like, please end my life right now. This is horrible. And that just clicked for me. So I thank you for that eye-opening remark. I think that was good.
I love that specifically you were chatting about Scream because I went through the entire Paramount Plus catalog, A to Z, the other night, and I said, I want
Yes.
to watch these movies. And I added like probably 50 movies to my watch list. And the one of the 50 that I added was Scream 4, which I have yet to see. And I'm like, well, this is perfect. I'm gonna go watch it. And I kid you not, that was my plan to watch this evening, to watch
No.
tonight.
You should because I watched it today.
Oh, perfect,
Then
perfect.
we'll
See, I
be on the
watched
exact same we'll be on the exact same train.
Like, I didn't watch, like, the 3 first ones,
That's
but
okay.
right, like, in order, like, I've seen them all,
Yeah,
but I haven't watched number 4. I watched Serpico last night, so I thought, this would be a good,
good follow-up.
random genre flip
Yes,
to that.
it'll be good. That's great. I'm glad that we're on the same wavelength now. It
Wow.
always comes back. It always swings around. All right. Speaking of wavelength, let's get back on the wavelength for this episode, which when you and I were thinking about the 200th episode, we were like, okay, we want to do something different for sure. And we don't want to do what's poppin'. We don't want to do, a movie review per se. Like we really want to try to like take a step back and do something we haven't done. So we were like, what is the embodiment of this podcast? Like if there is one thing we've talked about more so than any other thing, what would it be? And the unequivocal response, as it would be for probably any movie podcast that started in 2019, is we have talked more about the Marvel Cinematic Universe than any other thing. And if you've listened to one episode, two episodes, 199 episodes, you would shake your head emphatically and say, yes, they have talked about the Marvel Cinematic Universe more than anything. So, what we are going to do tonight is a state of the union on the MCU. So, we're calling it the state of the MCU. We've had a few mini conversations like this in the past after we've reviewed films, but we're going to look at everything holistically, knowing what we now know after Thor Love and Thunder, which really, like, in terms of the MCU, doesn't have that much of a seismic impact, but I would guess that there are light spoilers. So just be wary of that. We'll try to stay away from it, but it's possible. Um, we're going to talk about it in its entirety. I have some discussion prompts for us to cover, but we're going to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where it's at, where it's been, where it's going, and how we feel about it, so we can get a full download as we head into this Saturday. And you may not have known this. We dropped this nugget on the last episode just briefly, but this Saturday is Marvel's return to Hall H at the San Diego Comic-Con. So they did a virtual Comic-Con panel for Phase 4, I think last year during COVID.
Mhm.
This year it's the real deal. Kevin Feige and the whole squad will be there. And we don't know what they're rolling out, but we're expecting mega news. We're expecting mega news because the last time that they did this, it was the Phase 4 unveiling post Endgame, and they were dropping bombs like you would not believe. And they dropped this. Let me show the screen real quick. They dropped this timeline that
Oh,
shook everybody. They introduced Simu Liu. They introduced Natalie Portman again to be returning as Jane Foster. They introduced Mahershala Ali as Blade. There was just tons of news going out, and we think that there will be something similar happening this weekend. So we're going to have this discussion now, and then we'll probably swing back around and say, okay, what did we know? What did we not? So, Kirk, the
yes.
MCU. Let's dive into it.
Perfect.
Here's what I want to ask. Okay. I think, and this, you'll have to check me on some of this stuff because I am heavily involved on Twitter. And so I see a lot of film Twitter stuff. And, Twitter is algorithmically generated just like any other of these platforms. So a lot of times it's like the stuff that ticks you off or the stuff that you like gets fed back into your feed because you interact with it. Those are the two categories of things that you typically interact with, like things that are funny, things that you like, and then there's like things that make you angry and or sad and or scared. Like those are the two things. So that's what the algorithm
It
feeds
wants you
you.
to take you through the whole cycle of emotions in one
Right?
visit on
It's
Twitter.
positively sinister. But the thing that I keep seeing is a really wide spectrum of people who love where the MCU is at right now with the shows and the movies and everything that's happening, how they've kind of broken away from formula and gotten into something new and different and inventive in the way that we've never seen the MCU before. And then on the other side, there's the other extreme, which is people who despise this phase, do not like the shows, specifically do not like the 6 episode format that we've fallen into the shows, do not like the recent movies. They think they're messy. They think they're not as thoughtful. They think they're clunky. Um, this was the case, these people wouldn't have liked Thor Love and Thunder very much, or Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, certainly not Eternals, certainly probably not Black Widow. So my first question to you is Phase 4 the worst phase of the MCU or not, or is it too early to tell?
I believe it is not the worst phase of the MCU.
Okay. Elaborate.
I didn't think that
You
far.
didn't think I was gonna probe on that
I
question?
thought it would be your turn, and then
Yeah.
no, I can elaborate. I would say that I think we've hit a similar bump in the road. This phase feels very much so like the stepping stones, but at massive scale, right? So I think of movies like Thor: Dark World. I even think
Yeah.
of Iron Man 3, definitely Age of Ultron, and then a little smidge, and might get some hate for this, a little smidge of Captain America: Civil War was even more of a stepping stone than it was a full standalone movie. Obviously, it's the best out of all of the ones I just mentioned, but still, there's that part of Marvel and the storytelling that you have to not get through such a bad phrasing, because why make the movie if you're just getting through something, right? When your characters don't go through an emotional change or anything, there's a period of time that has to be told that may not be as exhilarating as the very first tale or the very end tale, right? So, is this the worst we've ever seen it? My answer is no.
Yeah. I'm gonna go, and this might be the cop out answer, but I'm gonna go that it's too early to tell. And here's why. I think there are a few things happening that make people think that this is the worst phase. And to my opinion is that the major maybe not the majority, but my opinion is that if you polled the masses on this question, the plurality of people would say phase 4 is the worst.
They
That's
would.
my opinion. It's not been done, but I think that if you did it, the plurality of people would say that it's the worst, okay? But there's a few different reasons I think that that's happened. One is that coming out of Endgame was extraordinary whiplash. You go back and watch that movie and you see all the wheels that are in motion, all the cogs that are spinning, everything locking and turning together that has been built up over the course of whatever 23, 27 movie. I can't remember what it was in the first three phases, 27, 23. Yeah.
Mhm.
Something movies all together culminating into this one big thing. And it was this ginormous cinematic event, something the likes of which we've never seen before. And so naturally for Marvel, you can't keep that here. In fact, it doesn't even make sense to keep that here. This was the equivalent of what they have in the actual comics world of these events, Secret Wars, Civil War, some of the things that we've already seen in the movie, House of M, etc. Like they have these big events. And that was what they did with Avengers Endgame. So they had to bring it all the way back. Like emergency brake, Fast and the Furious J turn, we have to hit the brakes. And so I think that part of the reason people feel like this phase is the worst is because the whiplash from going to that level of just high quality Marvel content to like very scaled down, scoped down projects feels like this is not what I'm into. I was all in on watching the marathon and doing the big thing. I was in that mode. Okay, so that's one. I think the other one, and one of the other ones is that there's the shows. Okay. And so the world has gotten bigger, which has caused the mainstream fans, and this is something we've talked about a lot. We've used the word saturation. I don't necessarily think that's what it is. I think it's just it's not like it's not like people are tired of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't think people are tired of superhero content. I think that there's so much Marvel content, so maybe saturation is the right word, that the mainstream fan, the casual fan who was used to seeing every movie but not much else, they're not keeping up with the shows. And so just the fact that those shows exist stresses these people out and they start to feel like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so far behind. I can't get into it." And so they skip a movie here, they skip a movie there. Never heard of this Shang-Chi guy, never heard of the Eternals. I'm out. they watch Spider-Man and then they're like, "Oh man, I missed all this stuff." I think that that's what's happening. It's not that people are bored of it, it's that there's so much of it that people feel like they can't keep up, and so they feel like they're not as interested. That's the other one. The last one is this, and this is the one that I find to be the most interesting. They have more consistently in this phase bucked the formula, the MCU formula. And here's why this is interesting to me. So, through the first 3 phases, you didn't hear a lot of hullabaloo of criticism for Marvel. There wasn't this huge faction of people saying, "Oh, all these people who like the Marvel movies are basics, normies, shills for the big corporation."
Mm.
There was not that loud noise. It was just like, "Hey, everybody kind of likes this. This is a big movement. We're all going to go see Endgame. We're all going to enjoy it." There were certainly small, loud factions that were anti-Marvel, but that sentiment was contained. And so, but whenever we got into phase 4, like, or in that gap, that kind of like COVID gap, people started to say like, "Oh, if you look at the Marvel movies, they're very formulaic. They all follow this formula." Well, that formula was built so that the movies could get critical acclaim. Um, like the those movies aren't actually formulaic if you look at them. They're just kind of their own subgenre. And so they follow certain rules that have been established in this world, which makes people think that they're formulaic. But because of that, those rules and the way that they adhered to them and everything, it made them really critically acclaimed. And so they always got high Rotten Tomato scores. So everybody felt like, "Oh, I have to talk good about these movies." And there was less loud noise. Now they've consistently bucked the formula in phase 4, doing all kinds of different things, having visionary directors come in and embolden them to do crazy stuff. They have the shows, which are doing more daring things. They have the multiverse, which is going on. And what's interesting is like those same people who were like, "Oh, the formula, the formula, the formula," are now hating the stuff that's anti-formula too. And as a result, some of the critics are not liking it as much too, which has emboldened these people, the people who don't like it, to go out against it. That is kind of what I think. And I know that that was a lot of talking.
No, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I was writing notes because everything you were saying, like, oh, made me think of things. It's all connected, Cam. And maybe that's the big scope of it all. It's all connected and we don't know what it is yet. We're waiting for that. I love how you said, buck the formula, as I wrote with my fancy. This is my favorite pen, by the way. We're not sponsored by Pilot, but I really love Pilot
Is it the
G2.07.
G2? I mean,
Oh,
come
that's the
on.
G2.07, my friend. It's the best one out
It's the
there.
best.
I I gotta say, like, when you had, let's say, we had Captain America, we had Iron Man, we had Thor, we had all the big ones, right? All the big ones that rolled out. Every single one of those started to introduce the next character, or a character that we would definitely and absolutely see in 2 movies later. Like, right? So, like, when you think about, Falcon and the Winter Soldier gave us Valentina, and she popped up, but she hasn't had her own, like, big screen moment or really full fleshed out storyline, right? Even
Yeah,
John
she
Walker.
she lives she lives in the after credits, right? She lurks in the nether
Yes.
realm, you know?
That's all we'll ever see her at in the end credit scenes. That's it. They couldn't afford her, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Even John Walker hasn't returned yet. I would venture to say that the only person who has appeared the most since their cameo end of credits scene would be Florence Pugh, in her appearances in Black Widow and then in Hawkeye. Did we see her again in something else? Maybe,
No,
maybe not.
just Hawkeye.
Eternals, haven't seen any of those guys. Eros, where's he at? Harry Styles. Abomination appeared in Shang-Chi. There's so many of those. So the previous formula, we were always introduced, and there was a hype that coming soon, we would see them again. And we've seen all these people, and it's been like now like 8 or 9 months. Like, where's Ralph Boner? People are craving Ralph
More
from
more
WandaVision to
Ralph
come
Boner
back.
content is what we need.
Where's his standalone series? I want to see him moving to Hollywood as an actor and trying to make it big. That was his dream, right? And then getting sucked into Westview. I think that's part of the system that's not working right now, visibly. I think it will pay off, but the question is where? Where and when will it pay off in these next few months that Kevin Feige has teased us out?
Yeah, that's a great point too. I mean, I think that part of it is people don't like not being able to see the path. And people have such a short memory because there was a long period of time where we hadn't seen the path. I mean, Thanos didn't first appear. He barely appeared in the first Avengers movie, you
Hmm.
know, and then he appeared in earnest in Guardians of the Galaxy. But at that point, nobody had any idea what we were building towards. You know, the world was so scoped down that like the biggest bad was like still Loki, and everybody was like, you know, it was just a totally different place. We couldn't possibly have seen that. And for whatever reason, now, again, coming off of Endgame, people are so unsettled. And I have to admit that I felt this way at times too, with not being able to see what's ahead. To your point, like it feels like eons since we saw Shang-Chi. It was just last year, but there's been so much content that it's like, look at all these characters we have. Like you could throw out one character right now and just be like Kate Bishop, and it stresses you out. You're like, oh no, when are we gonna see them again? Like when are we gonna see her again? What's happening? And so I think that that gives people a lot of anxiety because they like to be able to see the puzzle being put together and what the pieces are, and that just hasn't been revealed. And maybe that's a mistake on Marvel's part. I'm not exactly sure yet. I think time will tell on that. But I think that what they're essentially doing is they're saying, let's do phase one again and lay the groundwork, but let's do it with a wider net. So instead of Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, we're going to do it with Shang-Chi, you know, a new Thor, you know, all numbers of things.
The
Loki,
Eternals.
the Eternals, Black Widow. I mean, not Black Widow. Hawkeye with Kate Bishop, Captain America. You know, the new Sam Wilson Captain America. Like they're trying to cast a wider net and start all these things. Miss Marvel, whatever. Um, and so it feels like it's taking forever. We've only been in phase 4 for like a year. Like literally a year. Like WandaVision came out in January of last year, and that was sort of the beginning of all of this. So I do think we need to kind of wait and see, even though people are quick to make snap judgments on it. But here's the elephant in the room: is that you and I have been more critical of this phase too. Like Black Widow, Eternals, Doctor Strange, Thor: Love and Thunder. Those movies, I don't think. I mean, I'll have to go back and check the tapes, but I don't think we put any of them in the eights. You know,
I
which is
doubt.
lower than most of the MCU to date. I think the only ones that have been there for us are No Way Home, which duh, that got a 10. You know, like absolutely cinematic achievement, crazy momentous thing, and then Shang-Chi, which was really really good.
Right.
So we have been more critical. I don't know. What do you say to that? Like when I think about that question, I just go, well, it's not because they bucked the formula. It's just because like it's all different reasons. Like Black Widow felt like it was a bit of a mess, probably due to COVID with editing and some of the effects and things like that that kind of mucked it up. Eternals was overly ambitious. Doctor Strange had a story that was not fully fleshed out, and Thor was had a good story but paced it crazy. You know, like that's where I'm at on all of those. So I don't feel like any of those are like scathing. I still liked all those movies, but I didn't like them as much as I've liked previous phases.
Yeah. When you're in the arts and specifically in when you're telling a story, so in theater and in film, you must be able to collaborate. And there is absolutely a way to collaborate remotely, but there is a huge setback and still kind of is with the results and the ongoing fight against COVID and to keep everyone safe. That's just hard. It's just very difficult. People are not in the room. People aren't able to be fully present because someone they know is very sick. And there's so many other factors at play now than there ever were before. So I feel like that alone takes us out of it. That inability to fully collaborate has struck us a little bit. With all that said, if you're going to put something out, especially if you're Marvel, pump the brakes. Now's the time, right? Like
Right.
now's the time to say, we got a delay. No one's going to question it. Not a single soul. Kevin Feige could not even tell anyone else but in his own brain, like, we're delaying this until 2023. And everyone would be like, COVID, right? It'd be that simple. And he doesn't have to tell anyone, and he can fine tune and fix and manipulate and resolve things that are problems. That's part of my problem with phase 4 is that
Yeah.
I think there are bigger issues at play, but I think that there's a very easy way to pump those brakes when necessary to put out a product that's 8.0 out of 10 kernels or higher.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about the movies that we did rate lower than I think we normally would an MCU film is that, or that we've historically rated MCU films, is that they could have met that mark. You know, it wasn't that the movie itself wasn't capable of achieving that. A lot of movies that we give bad scores, their ceiling isn't an 8. It never
Right.
was. You know, Halloween Kills never was. Their ceiling was never an 8.
Yeah.
The Kitchen, the ceiling was never an 8, right?
The Kitchen.
But these movies did have a high ceiling, and they could have been there with some fine tuning. So that was one of my questions, was about COVID. And the question is, like, is it a fair excuse? And I feel like the point that you're making is like, yeah, it's fair to say, in one way, it is a fair excuse because it's fair to say that COVID had a massive impact on these projects. But on the other hand, it shouldn't be given as an excuse because Marvel Studios had it within their power to say, this is not Marvel Studios quality yet. We're not putting it out until we can do it Marvel Studios quality. Because some of, like, the one to me that's like the most glaring out of all of this is What If. There's a whole episode missing from that show. And in the finale, they act like we all just saw that episode. It's minor, but it's that Gamora and Iron Man plotline that
Yeah.
they do. And they just like gloss over it. Like, oh, and here's these guys. They're going to be part of our multiverse Avengers army against, you know, the Ultron guy. And it's like, no, like Marvel wouldn't do that. That's a detail that's missed. And that feels really odd. So yeah, it's like, I'm sure the mouse was like banging the money gavels, like money,
Oh,
money,
give me the
money,
money.
feed me
Kevin
money,
Feige,
right?
you promised me. You promised me all the money in the world.
Exactly. The mouse is doing that. So I'm
Mickey
sure
Mouse is
there,
actually Don Corleone.
yeah,
Come on! I made you an offer you couldn't refuse. You bought you silly guy with your baseball cap. Give me my money.
yeah, like legitimately, that's how I envision that going. Only it's Bob Chapek in a mouse costume, and so I
He
like,
zips it down. I would have gotten away with it if you darn kids hadn't been here. Scooby-Doo is now part of Disney, by the way.
right, yeah, yeah. So like, I feel like there like part of it is like they had a fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders to act in the best interest of the business, and the reality is like, even if the thing's not to your liking, it's still going to make a billy in the box office, even
Yeah.
during a global pandemic. And so that's part of it too. Um, but you know, I'm with you on that. Like, I don't know if it's a fair excuse or not, but I think it's certainly something. I think it's a contributor. Okay, here's my next question, and this I
Okay.
think is going to be a big one.
Ooh.
Are the shows, the TV shows for the MCU, a net positive or a net negative for the cinematic universe? Have they been to date a net positive or a net negative?
Okay. Well, let me pull my papers up again. What shows do we have? We have 7 of them? 8 of them?
7 if you include What If, which you should, because it's been tied into the MCU at this
All
point.
right. So here's the shows. Just to recap. WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. This is in no particular order. Actually, it's in the order that I ranked them for a social media post, I think.
No, not Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You had that like dead last.
Oh, sorry, my numbers are mixed up. My apologies. I'll now read mine in order. WandaVision, Loki, Moon Knight, Hawkeye, 5, Miss Marvel, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. What If? Yes, I think that's how it went.
Yeah.
So those are the shows. So are they net positive or a net negative? I'm going to say there are more wins, not like per season, right? So
Yeah.
I couldn't say that, oh my goodness, you can't take any of those you can't take any of those away. You could. You absolutely could. But there are moments, big enough moments in each of those shows that
Mhm.
catapult not only the characters in those shows forward, not only the MCU forward, not only Mickey getting his money forward,
Right.
but it builds unity with all of it, and that's something that you can't quantify, right? So I think it's a net positive because there's not a single moment in every single one of these shows where you're like, this is all garbage. Nothing is valid here.
Yeah.
They could have just said this in a 5-minute exposition in the next big movie. I don't think that's possible. So they're all in their own right valuable, just not all of them are that great.
Yeah. Man, I struggle with this one. I have to be honest and say that I think that the commercial impact of them long term is a net negative because I feel like it has increased the volume of content to such an extent to where the casual fan is becoming disinterested, as I stated earlier. So I think that that's a problem. From a story perspective, I still kind of feel like it's a net negative, even though I have liked some of the shows for sure. Like I've actually liked all of them to varying degrees. Um, my top three are WandaVision, Loki. Actually, Loki first, then WandaVision, then Miss Marvel. Um, but those shows are not without their flaws. I think Loki is the one that's like the cleanest all the way through. Strong, strong, strong. It has one episode where I think it kind of like the pacing kind of slows a bit, but WandaVision has a great, great start and middle with a lackluster finale. And because they built that finale up to be such this big thing and then it kind of wasn't. And Miss Marvel had a great first, I don't know, 3 episodes and then kind of dallied for 2 episodes and then had an excellent finale. Um,
Yep.
so it's like they've all been varying levels of good. It's just that to me, they somewhat cheapen the MCU in the sense that the shows are obviously not cinema quality. They're a different medium, they're a different format, they're a show. And you there's this sense that like the big players don't play the TV game. With the exception of, I guess, Wanda and Anthony Mackie would be the only two that you're like, okay, those are the big stars that are like, you would think are probably above this on the totem pole, and they did a show. Because like, uh, you just you never feel like in those shows that something crazy big is going to happen, and I feel like that's something that they're missing. Like you want the casual fan to feel like they have to watch the show because anything could happen. Like if they had actually had Spider-Man appear in the Hawkeye finale, Tom Holland, that's the kind of thing that gets people going, "Woly moly, all bets are off." You have all of this stuff is must-watch television. There's crazy stuff happening in these shows, and I don't feel like they've done that, but on the flip side, I do feel like the scaled down format has been excellent for new character intros. I thought
Yeah.
it worked great in Moon Knight. I thought it worked great for Kate Bishop and Hawkeye. I thought it was the perfect intro for her kind of character. And I thought that Miss Marvel was like a really good origin story for Kamala Khan in the MCU, and Iman Vellani's entrance onto that stage. So I like it for that. But the one thing I will agree with the masses with on this one is the 6 episode format. Don't like it. I just
Nope.
don't. I feel like not one of these shows with the 6 episode format has worked perfectly, and that includes Obi-Wan Kenobi too. The pacing is just wacky. It's like it's not a movie, but it's not a TV show, and it's just caught in limbo. It doesn't know how far to go, and it's like they try to put in an it's like amount of content stretched out over 6 episodes, and so you end up with these lulls. I mean, is that how you feel about it?
Yeah, I would say for some series, absolutely. You would almost say like, "Hey, this should have been 3 episodes." Like it's just
Yeah.
too far to be a movie, or like they kind of crammed like a couple of storylines, like they kind of shrunk those. Like there were parts in especially Miss Marvel where I was like, that could have been
Yes.
like 2 episodes alone. Like this could have been a 10 episode series. You're absolutely right on that, right on the money. I feel that the this is a very difficult
It is.
subject as it is for most. I feel that if you would have been able to incorporate the biggest heroes, the front top tier heroes that we have seen in the big movies, right? And let them assist even for 5 minutes. Not to say that the heroes we were being introduced to or reintroduced to weren't strong enough, but everyone needs help, right? Like there's a line that Spider-Man says, "Oh yeah, I fought so and so. I fought this kind of villain once," right? And he's kind of like telling people like, "I've had the experience. Like it's really fun." And it's not like a small villain, it's not like a robber, it's not like Thanos, right? It's somewhere in between. And that's where all these guys are should be able to connect with. So the introduction of the scale of the TV show, right? That's spot on, right? You can't
Yeah.
have Thanos
Yep.
come and be the main villain of Miss Marvel,
Right.
but you can have those bigger heroes who are more experienced. Let's call them that. They're more experienced. We've seen them on their journey. They've learned more about themselves. They've they've evolved and their powers have matured, right? I think that showing them pop in with that would make more sense and connect them. It's the connection that we're missing. And
Yeah.
then, as you said, Miss Marvel was the first glimpse of that, where we had spoiler alert, Captain Marvel appear at the very last moment of
Briefly.
Miss Marvel.
Briefly. In a
Like
new outfit, but
2 seconds. This is her ninth
right.
outfit, I
Yeah,
think.
right. Yeah, over the course of like she's appeared like 3.5 times. Yeah.
That's
It's
right.
pretty crazy. Um yeah, there's just there is just to your point, like there's just a slight recalibration that's needed there. It's not that it's all bad. It's just that right now the sum of the parts is not necessarily like something great. It's just like something that's been fun and good and like for the most part good, but not it's just not that like next level that we were sort of expecting. So okay, we've talked about phase 4. Let's look ahead. Okay? Let's look ahead. This weekend, the Marvel Mega Panel is happening. You and I talked about on the last show some things that we would like to see. My thing was Fantastic Four casting announcement and or X-Men casting,
Yes.
preferably both. Yours was some sort of new hero. You threw out Sentry, which I love.
Yep.
Absolutely love that idea. Um, and we've heard, there's been all these different rumors about Nova and a Daredevil series. I mean, there's so many things that just like have floated out, like Wonder Man, like we talk about these things and then they kind of slip through your fingers and you don't even remember them when the time passes. So there are certain things we know will happen this weekend. We know Captain America 4 will be front and center as Marvel champion Sam Wilson is the new Captain America,
Right.
with Anthony Mackie at the helm. Well deserved. Can't wait to hear more about that movie. I'm ready to hear a date. I'm ready to go. I think they are going to swing for the fences this weekend. I just feel like if Feige is taking the pulse of the people, he might be ready to share a little bit more than he would have previously. So I feel like we're coming away with some sort of X-Men news. And I think that it's either a movie related to one or all of the X-Men or a casting announcement or when they will appear something. I think we're for sure walking away with Fantastic Four casting announcement. I
Yes.
can't imagine we're not. And I think that we're probably walking away with a couple of other goodies. Do you think they're swinging for the fences this weekend, or do you think that we should temper our expectations?
Swinging for the fences. Fantastic Four must be announced. We must know who Victor Von Doom is as well in that casting.
Yeah,
I mean, wasn't that the actual? Was it Blade or was it Fantastic Four where they're like, "Oh yeah, one more thing," and they threw it up on the screen? Like
Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four, right? So they drew the four up there, circled, and walked out, right? That must happen.
Yeah,
Because you're right. He's checking the pulse. He's always been looking at what the numbers are, in addition to, more importantly, the morale of the fans. And it is definitely mixed. I mean, even
yeah,
even us, we're going back and forth a little bit here on, yeah, it's great, but I wish this would happen. And Marvel has mostly always delivered what we want, even when we don't know what we want. So that's what we need to see in this big Saturday reveal.
yeah. I I don't know, man. I'm hoping they throw some haymakers. I'm like, I've cleared my calendar to be ready for all of the craziness to hit the fan. I'm expecting 2019 again. I just am. And I think that everybody, in a way, like if I'm taking the pulse of everything on Twitter, everybody's expecting something big this weekend at 7 p.m. Central Time. And so if they go out there and they talk about Captain America 4 and
Wakanda
Fantastic
Forever.
Four and not without casting announcements and Wakanda Forever and things that we have known and heard about, I think people are going to be absolutely livid. So I'm expecting big news, but we'll just have to kind of wait and see. It's very exciting. But last question on this, and then we'll go to a game because I hear you have a game, Kirk.
I do.
My last question is, are you as excited about the future of the MCU as you were, prior to that Phase 4 announcement 2019?
I think I am. And the only reason I think I am is because of the potential that these characters have to meet. Like these characters weren't just thrown at us to just like live in their own worlds. Even though we want them to connect and it seems like they'll never talk to another superhero, we know that's not possible. In the comic books, that's not what they do. They're running into each other left and right by accident, right? So the meetups of all of this and how they meet up and what villain they fight and how they're connected and what trauma they share to bond with each other and then fight side by side, that makes me excited. So I'm not more I don't think more excited because I don't think I can assess that, but I am just as excited for the next phase as I was before.
Yeah, I'm going to agree because here's the thing that always brings me back down to earth when I start to listen to the masses and go, okay, like people are turning on this. Like, I don't know, maybe they're right, whatever. And I have my own opinions. I'm a free thinker. I'm not a group thinker.
Mhm.
So that is what it is. But the thing that always brings me back is two things. And those things are Fantastic Four and the X-Men. Marvel's first family and the biggest Marvel super team that there is. They haven't even been introduced in the MCU, dude. Like, that might not mean something to people who are just the movie fans, but if you know anything about the comics, like, we're talking tip of the iceberg stuff, guys. Like, X-Men and Fantastic Four are two insanely massive properties with a huge history. And
Right.
like, we have come nowhere. We haven't even touched those. Like, there are so many characters and storylines and things that are yet to come that I'm like, what they could be building towards could dwarf Endgame. Like like make it look tiny if they pull it off. And that's the thing that really excites me is like, in the way that Endgame was something we had never seen before, 12 years from now or 10 years from now or whatever, we could be looking at something that is so much bigger than anything we've ever seen, to the point where it's like stupid. Like, Endgame looks like child's play. And I feel like that potential is on the table, and I just want to see them try to pull it off. So that's why I'm still as excited.
That'd
But
be so incredible. Have you heard the latest fan casting that I'm all about for Wolverine?
no. Logan Lerman?
Logan's up there,
Yeah.
but Taron Egerton.
Oh yeah, I've heard that one. I've heard
And I
that one.
want that so badly.
He could bring it. Yeah. That's
He
better
is
than the Daniel Radcliffe. Even though I love Daniel Radcliffe, I just don't think that's a fit. But
it's
Taron
not.
Egerton is a good fit. It's a good
He's the
fit.
one. I think he's the one. I think he'll get it.
Yeah, I could see it. I could see it, man. That would be pretty legit. We'll wait and see this weekend. San Diego Comic-Con, the MCU panel. We'll try to tweet or post in Discord as much as humanly possible. I'll be manning the phones. We'll just kind of see what goes down, but be there to chat with us. If you need somebody to vent to on that evening about like, oh my gosh, my head's exploding, there's so much crazy stuff, hop into the Discord, hop onto Facebook, whatever. We'll be ready to chat with you guys about it for sure. All right, Kirk. That's the state of the MCU as it stands right now. Let's hear your game. Oh gosh, it's a new costume. He's Captain America. That's why that portal's behind you, isn't it? You're just
That's right.
You're hopping out of it. It's like a Doctor Strange portal.
I've gotta tuck my crazy hair. I look more like John Walker right now.
That's right. Wyatt Russell.
John Walker coming to you, ladies and gentlemen. This is called, are you ready for this, Cam?
No.
The multiverse of casting.
Ooh.
Enter
What does it mean?
ominous music. That means there are lots of actors and actresses that were almost part of the MCU, part of our favorite characters,
Oh,
maybe our least favorite characters. Well, now we're going to figure out just how well you know the almosts, Cam. Are you ready for this?
I am going to be so bad at this, but I am ready to go. Ready to go.
All right, there are some clues to help you in the questions, so pay attention. Not to my hair popping out of my exquisite mask, but just just the questions. Here we go. And to remind you, there is lots of points that go with this.
Yeah,
You
of
will get
course.
points for this. I don't know how many, and I forgot the other points that we've done throughout the past 10 episodes. But are you ready, Kim?
I am.
Here we go. Question number 1. In an alternate universe, an unlikely actress was up for the role of Black Widow. The film that she's in follows an aspiring fashionista who lands a job as an assistant to a real demon like fashion queen. So I've just described to you the movie that this actress who was up for the role of Black Widow was in. Not necessarily the exact character, but someone in that movie.
Anne Hathaway?
That is incorrect.
No. Emma
Anne
Stone.
Hathaway was not up for it. Emma Stone is not in The Devil Wears Prada.
Well, yeah, I thought you might have been talking Cruella.
Ooh, okay. Okay. I was talking about The Devil Wears Prada.
No, I know. I thought if you weren't talking about Devil Wears Prada, you certainly had to have been talking about Cruella. So
Do you remember Anne Hathaway's best
Emily
friend?
Blunt.
Emily Blunt. That is correct. Do you want to know why she couldn't take the role of Black Widow?
I do.
Do you know that she was Jon Favreau's top choice for Black Widow at the time of casting?
No.
And
Didn't even know that she was a choice, obviously. So now I had no idea.
right, she had a filming conflict with, wait for it, Gulliver's Travels.
No, Emily.
Oh,
No. Why'd you
which,
do it?
and legend says if you watch Gulliver's Travels, you can see a tear falling from her eye in every single frame that she's in,
Yeah.
regretting that she was never in it.
And
However,
money flying out of every
oh,
frame as well.
we wouldn't have gotten A Quiet Place or A Quiet Place Part 2 had she done
True.
it.
And
And
now she can be Sue Storm.
she might be Sue Storm.
There you go.
Question number 2. You'll never believe which elf star almost landed the role as Wasp in Avengers.
Oh, Zoe Deschanel.
That is correct.
That would have been bad.
Yeah.
I just don't that no offense to Zoe Deschanel at all. I just don't think that really works.
Right. The whole idea of it was that Wasp was the central character in the Avengers, like the Avengers that we know, like early script, because the Wasp was like the founder of the Avengers in the comics. Like she brought everyone together, and apparently she was going to be very witty and very quick and the funniest person of the bit.
Yeah, I
And
mean Janet Van Dyne in the comics is a big deal. And was certainly very instrumental in the West Coast Avengers and others. So I could see that, but I think the way that they went was a much better play.
I agree. I agree. And for those listening, you can and did hear the sound of my Captain America mask coming off as I was losing blood flow to my skull. So
Right. Kirk
here
was
I
going to
am.
the ER after this.
That's right. Very good. Very good. We're 1 for 2. This is good, Cam. You're doing great. Question number 3. In the Colosseum of casting, this gladiator star almost. I can't read my writing.
This is my favorite
Donned.
part of every game.
I should type this out. I have a computer. This gladiator star almost donned the cape and the time stone of Doctor Strange.
Joaquin.
That is correct.
And I would be so here for it. he's always been linked to these superhero movies, and I never quite get it. Like Joker made sense, but the other ones just have never made sense to me. But I just would love to see it. I personally would. No offense to Benedict, I think he's awesome. I want to be a part of that timeline. I want to see the timeline where he signs on the dotted line and does it.
I
I
think
just
it's
want to. I'm
coming.
just so curious.
And if you'll excuse me, just fixing my hair from the mask.
You're
It's
so
just,
vain, Kirk. You're so
it's just
vain.
really troublesome.
I
I've
bet you
had
think this song is about you.
I do think it is about me every time. Every time that song plays. I also would have accepted for Joaquin Phoenix, Leaf Phoenix, as he went by for a period of
Oh
time.
yeah.
He was jealous of his older siblings, River and Rain, that he's like, "What in the world, Mom? I didn't get an earthly name. What's going on here?" So,
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it really is. That's
so the
tough.
next time we have trivia, I will only accept Leaf Phoenix for your answer, regardless of the time frame in which he was going by Leaf or Joaquin. Just as
You
a
know,
heads
my
up.
my cousin had friends that he grew up with whose names were there were sisters and their names were China, India, and Kendall. True
Okay.
story. So
Okay.
it's a similar situation there where the third one's kind of like, I'm sorry, what?
Like, I feel a little left out here. Like literally the third wheel. Okay.
Yeah, I could have been
Fix that.
Cambodia. Like, what gives?
That's right. All right. This one. I don't know if you'll get this one. You're a big Guardians fan. Can you imagine anyone else in the role of Peter Quill? Can you?
No.
Let's see if you can. Already experienced with a space movie, this Contact star almost appeared as Peter Quill's father, Ego, in Guardians 2. The film is Contact.
I've never seen Contact.
Do you know the poster? It's a big satellite with Jodie Foster and
Yeah, yeah. Um, so it's Peter Quill's father.
yes. But age is but a number. It does not make sense in the casting of this actor,
Okay.
an Academy Award winning actor.
Matt Damon.
That is incorrect.
I knew I was gonna get that one wrong.
But his first name does start with an M. And so does his last name.
Oh. Mike Myers. That's
No!
right. I'm giving myself the point.
No. This is also the star of what else is obscure from his past? Ed TV and A Time to Kill.
I'm totally blanking, Kirk.
Matthew
Roderick. McConaughey?
McConaughey.
Well, you said I figured you would say his name is also Matthew. But you said his name starts with an M. So I
I
get why
did.
you did that.
I
It just
did.
threw me.
I sent you down a long rabbit hole, didn't
No,
I?
it's not your fault. Let's be honest. It's not. Yeah, that would have been terrible. Awful.
And much like Emily Blunt, there were some there I'm sure there's some regret here. So Matthew
Yeah. Oh,
McConaughey
yeah.
when he turned down this role, thank goodness he did because the age just didn't make sense. I mean,
No.
he might actually be 15 years older than Chris Pratt. I'm not sure. But like when you look at them, there's no way they look
Yeah. No.
old enough, right? But the other two other reasons. One other reason would be that Matthew McConaughey was concerned that they were just grabbing all big stars and throwing them in these Marvel movies at the time. He's like, nah, they're grabbing a big actor here, grabbing a big actor there. It's like I don't want to just be like an ornament for them, right?
Yeah.
Fair. He turned that movie down to be in The Dark Tower.
Oh. Yeah, man. You got to watch out for those Stephen King films. They always sound good on paper, but you got to watch it. And that one is a real stinky one.
Which didn't Idris Elba star like opposite of him
Yes.
in those?
Uh-huh.
He's in Marvel. I think he should have been like, you made a big mistake, man.
Right. And
Big
Idris
mistake.
Elba is still in Marvel. We thought it ended. It never ends. It never ends.
They just keep paying him. They
I
just
don't
keep
get
paying
it. He
him.
like he even talked about when they were filming one of them. I can't remember one that he was only in for a little bit. I think it was probably
Possibly.
Infinity War,
Yeah, I think you're right.
where he was like he was on set just doing the same thing over and over again for this small role, and he was just like, I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
and you can't kill that man. He just keeps coming.
He's back. And question number 5, Cam. Let's
Okay,
take it out with the win.
let's hope so.
Big win. I see big win in your future. Here we
All
go.
right.
The following variant is offered a role in almost every MCU film, but he has yet to be cast. Best known for one of his roles on a bus with a bomb on it set to detonate if it
Yeah,
goes
it's
below 50
Keanu.
miles per hour.
It's Keanu.
That is Keanu Reeves. Well done.
The
Well done.
MCU and Kevin Feige love Keanu. The day will come where we get Keanu in the MCU. Maybe he'll be introduced on Saturday. You know, Kirk. Maybe this is our big Keanu moment. If not now, when, Kirk?
Could he be Victor Von Doom? No, he couldn't. He really couldn't.
No, he's not quite sinister enough. I mean, you have to have the capability for real sinisterness. Joaquin could do it.
He could.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know what the role is for him, but it's out there, and it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. It's going to be so great.
It will be. It'll be perfect. And then we'll say, thank goodness he passed on all of those.
Yeah.
You know who else is vying for a role is Jessica Chastain. She's actually been up a couple times,
Right.
but she's like, she got to the casting floor and she said, nah, not big enough. Like she wants.
Oh man, I don't
home.
think my heart can handle a Jessica Chastain Sue Storm. I don't think I can handle it. I love so much what she does. I would be overly ecstatic about that.
Right. It could be coming. You know, if we've been foiled and tricked on John Krasinski, I mean,
well, you know, Iman Vellani confirmed that Kevin Feige throws rumors out into the ether. He has his goons do this just to kind of throw people off the scent. I think that's a terrible idea because people get attached to those things and then they get mad. They make up their own fan castings, but that's, I guess, always going to happen. But yeah, it's possible that some of these things we've been clinging on to have been fake news, you know, just
Right.
smoke and mirrors, just a total smoke screen to throw us off the scent. I don't know. Let's hope Taron Egerton's not, Kirk.
He better
Let's
not
hope
be.
it's
I
not.
really don't see anyone else doing it. Like that one is such a good one.
They'll find somebody, man. They'll find somebody. We'll see. All right. Great game, Kirk. What was that? Multiverse of casting?
The multiverse of casting.
I love it. I love it, Kirk. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. I know we did a little bit different this week. We had a big, long, kind of flowing episode, but hey, it's episode 200. We had to go all out. We had to talk about something that we love to talk about. We had to get all the way into it. Super fun. I'm excited to see what happens this weekend. Please remember to follow us on your favorite social media platform, whatever that is. Twitter, Facebook is probably the easiest way to get our stuff, I would say, because Twitter, there's just so much going on there at all times. But definitely Facebook and certainly Discord. We're going to be all over Discord this weekend. I'll be putting news in there as it kind of happens. So be sure to sign up for that. It is free. All of our stuff's free. You never have to pay for anything, obviously.
Nothing.
So again, thank you so much for listening. Whether this is your first episode or your 200th episode, we sincerely love you. And what was that, Kirk? Are you being sucked into a different dimension?
Thanos is actually calling. My Thanos glove. All the Infinity
Thanos
Stones
glove.
are attempting to snap us out of our 200th episode. I think that's the case.
I got really scared there for a second. I was like, Kirk's about to be sucked into a pool of blood like Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm Street. Anyway, thank you guys so much for listening, seriously, or watching, subscribing, commenting, liking, whatever you've done to support this podcast, no matter how big or small. We seriously appreciate you. It has been a total blast, and we will continue to keep it churning out. We don't have a movie review cooked up for you this week, but next week we will resume our regular programming schedule, most likely with a review of The Gray Man, which drops on Netflix this Friday, directed by the Russo brothers and starring Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, Ryan Gosling. So we will leave you guys with that. We have to give a special thank you, of course, to our executive producer, Ryan Spriggs, as well as the band Rhetoric, who created our incredible original music. Let it bless your ears on the way out and find them anywhere you can listen to music. We will see you guys next time.
Talk to you then.
200!